Oh, thank absolute fuck for that. Another 3 points on the board. Lovely jubbly. Made pretty light work of Fulham for most of the game, I thought. Obviously, we've had that horrible, nervy last sort of few minutes after Mitrovic's goal. But for the most part, absolutely fantastic performance today. Exactly the sort of performance we wanted to see after that West Ham game in midweek. Wasn't nice, wasn't pretty in midweek, that is. But today, I thought completely the opposite. It was more reminiscent of the first game against Southampton. We were in control. We were passing the ball about nicely. It was our game to lose. We should have been, I think we should have. To me, I was saying to Charlotte as we were watching it, like that was like a 4-0 Tottenham result, that one. You can see why Kane's goal in the first half it was the first half, wasn't it? Got chalked off. He was offside, really, wasn't he? Sonny's ball through to him. But I've just got to say, overall, the control we have in the game with Romero being back and also adding Lenglet to that. He wasn't really tested a lot defensively, Lenglet, but when he was on the ball, the few times he was kind of going forwards, it was just so good. It was so good to see a player there that's decent on the ball, that could read the game, had the vision to kind of pick a decent pass and to also just kind of control the tempo from deep like that. It's not a dig out of Ben Davies. I love Ben Davies. I think he's had a really good season. I think he's dogged. I think he plays for the shirt, all that type of stuff. But, I think any of us are going to be lying if we say he's a particularly kind of brilliant player or anything like that. But Lenglet today, look brilliant. It's a long way to go. It's one performance, and it's one performance against Fulham, who, if I'm going to be totally honest, from what we'd seen of them so far this year, I think we were all expecting a bit more of a challenge in that, right? Maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but the Fulham we've seen for most of the season have been really quite decent, and I think they partly didn't show up today, but I think it's more. To be honest, I think it's more testament to the way we played. I think Spurs were really at it today. I think there was a point to prove there. I think they must have known that it wasn't good enough against West Ham. Look, all that we hear from Antonio Conte constantly, anytime he's asked, about games, about what it takes to be a real contender in this league, is that wins are everything. Every single year, you saw Kulusevski's interview not too long ago when he was talking about the mentality that Conte is drumming into them is that he just wants to win. He wants to win. These sort of people, right, in real life, in day-to-day situations, right, I can imagine these people are the most tedious, boring people. The sort of people that if you're playing cards or just having a little sort of, piss about on holiday, people sort of throw, basketballs into a hoop or something. They're the sort of people that get really competitive. The sort of people that when you're playing kind of even five-a-side will try and say that a goal was offside or something like that. Do you know what I mean? The ones that will be like shouting at people and squaring up to them. This kind of competitive, weird edge and stuff. Don't like it in day-to-day life, but I like it when I'm watching my team play football. You want the team to be competitive. Obviously, it's a competition. Goes without saying. Nice insight, Jack. Why are you listening to this again? Anybody? Don't know. But Tottenham, it's a different mentality, right? It's different. And I think that even with Mitrovic's goal, okay, normally you start to get, well, not normally. I mean, I was getting a fucking, what is it you call squeaky bum time. But they didn't really capitalise on it. And I think that's partly because, again, Tottenham, it was as it was when Southampton scored against us on the first game of the season. I just thought we didn't get rattled by it. We didn't play into what Fulham wanted us to do. We just carried about doing our game. We carried about doing the same thing that we'd been doing for the whole match, that had seen us kind of absolutely dominate possession, dominate the ball. I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk this week about Tottenham being the sort of player, the sort of team at least, or Conte being the sort of manager that doesn't like his team to have the ball and that sort of stuff. That's the discourse, isn't it? But But I thought I just thought we absolutely dominated them today. I thought we were brilliant. Having Bentancur back has been great. You know, I was sort of calling for him to go the other day, but the fuck do I know? You know, I don't know. It's hard. It's just hard, isn't it? I guess game by game, some games just don't work out for certain players. But I think overall, you know, you see that with Bentancur, just the way he kind of dictates the flow of play and dictates the tempo is pretty brilliant. But yeah, still, Arsenal made. If we're talking about this kind of Arsenal comparison, because we're going to do it. Of course, when Arsenal come good, they're going to live rent free in our heads. They're going to live rent free in my head. I grew up, my kind of years growing up were tormented by Arsenal. Arsenal being the best, or at least one of the best teams in Europe, taking our club captain on a free transfer, winning the league at our stadium. It's awful. It's awful. It's like, in a footballing sense, it's trauma. But they made hard work of that Fulham game. So for all the kind of plaudits and everything that are getting chucked their way, we looked far more comfortable in that game. And it feels like we're starting to go up through the gears, you know. And as I said after the West Ham game, I didn't want to come across negative, and I don't think I did. I had a bit of feedback from people, and they didn't really feel like it was particularly negative. Like I said, you know, I was just a bit tired, and I've been doing deadlifts, bro. But we were just professional in that. We were good, and Fulham are a good side. One of the other kind of bits of the discourse this week has been that there aren't really any easy games in the Premier League. What is it? How much Premier League teams spent this transfer window? 1.9 billion or something? Something ludicrous. Maybe I've gotten that wrong. All right, I'm going to have a quick look at that. I'm going to fact check myself now. Premier League transfer spending summer 2022. How much is it being? Yeah, 1.9 billion pounds. 1.9 billion pounds have been spent. You've even seen teams like Nottingham Forest chuck. You know, we've all seen all the memes, right? We've seen all the, is this Nottingham Forest team, and it's whatever, picture of a prison somewhere, everybody in red shirts and stuff. It's just it's mad. It's completely skewed, and we're seeing already kind of Liverpool 1 week beating Bournemouth 9-0 and struggling to get one over the line against Everton today, who they routinely beat. I mean, Liverpool haven't looked really that good at all season. Liverpool drew away at this lot at Fulham. But they're still Liverpool. I still think they're a pretty scary side. Do you know what, though? I'm going to say, and obviously my predictions on strikers this year, if we're going by Erling Haaland, hasn't really worked out that well. Although, you know, for all my chat about Erling Haaland saying ahead of the season, saying I thought he was going to flop, I have had him as my captain of my fantasy team from the very start of the season. So, you know, that's me backing up my words, isn't it? But yeah, Darwin Núñez. Luis Diaz is brilliant. He's a really good player. But Darwin Núñez, I'm not sold. Don't think he seems that a smarter player. But fuck Liverpool. We're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about Tottenham Hotspur playing against Fulham. Just the overall picture of it is it's another 3 points. It's another 3 points to Tottenham. We're still unbeaten in the league. We're going up through the gears. We've played Stamford Bridge, and we've played, I keep forgetting what the fuck it's called, City of London or the Olympic Dome or whatever the fuck you want to call that shithole at West Ham playing now. We've played two of our hardest away fixtures already. Haven't lost either of them. It's going good. It is going good. And I mean, it was horrible after that West Ham game. It really was. But I think the perspective has been kind of dealt today in that it's another tricky. I mean, everyone, all of you, and don't tell me, don't any of you tell me, don't tweet me or anything saying that you weren't worried about this game. 100%, and that's science, right? 100% of Spurs fans going into this game were worried. They thought Fulham were going to turn up. Dan Kilpatrick, who mugged me off in a Twitter live space thing the other day, he was tweeting before the game saying, you know, this is the sort of game where Spurs get humbled or whatever. What do the mainstream media know? We've had enough of these so-called experts, haven't we? Yeah. What do you know, mate? We love you really, Dan. We got the job done. It's cool, calm, professional. It's quite funny seeing Spurs being this team, because through all the kind of wobbles from the fans and all this type of stuff, really, I've not really seen Spurs kind of give anything less than a professional performance. I mean, even that West Ham game, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't great, but everyone was doing their jobs pretty well. They weren't doing their jobs brilliantly or exceptionally, and that's why we didn't maybe get the result that we were hoping for. But they did the job well, and I think the important thing is, and I guess this is kind of what a manager like Conte and his coaching can bring to a team, is it's not so much about, and it's definitely about raising your ceiling. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to galaxy brain this, but our ceiling is pretty high. When Spurs are flying, we're brilliant. We are good, and we know that. We haven't had to doubt that for the past few years, ever since kind of Pochettino, even before Pochettino, really. Look at the Redknapp years, look at the Yol years. When Spurs are good, they're really fucking good. And our goodness, if you like, has started to become more consistent. But one of the things that we've always tripped up on is these type of fixtures, is drawing games like this. Not even so much losing games like this Fulham game, just getting irritating draws and irritating losses as well. But with the type of coaching, to my point, maybe a manager like Antonio Conte, he already knows that really on our day we can be brilliant. Any team that's got Son, Kane, Kulusevski, Richarlison is going to be good. He's going to be great if the kind of things go our way. Where I think a manager like him is going to come in and look at is that mentality that we see it from all over the place. We see it from rival fans. We see it from players. Chiellini said it. We know the history of this club. Conte's going to know that. Conte's been in a title race against us. He's going to know the thing that the way in which you get at Tottenham is that they will always disappoint. Ultimately, in these kind of games, you can always get at them. You can get at Tottenham. And so far, I feel like one of the main things he's instilled in this team is that you can't get at us as easily. And it might be early days. I think we were very quick to point out who Arsenal have played. So they've had easy games. I mean, I don't know how much I buy that. I think their run has been favourable, but they started the season away at Crystal Palace. It's not an easy game. It isn't. It's not an easy game. But I get the point. They haven't played Chelsea away. They haven't played a Liverpool or a City or anyone like that. It's going to be interesting to see how they do against Manchester United. But a lot of these games, we've been talking about it previously. We're turning losses into wins. Southampton at home, Wolves at home, Chelsea away. Even the one the other day, West Ham away. These are all points that we didn't get last time. Maybe Conte's first job is raising our floor, getting that kind of that basement level of Tottenham to be better than it is before he even worries about how are we going to turn up to City or Liverpool and stuff. It's all part of it. It's not as binary as this. But I'm sure you can get the point I'm trying to make, is that he's making Tottenham a harder team to beat. That's one thing I'll give him. That's, we're sort of floating some ideas about, is this a bit Mourinho light or whatever. It's not, because under Mourinho we weren't actually that hard to beat, really. It seemed to be more of almost just like a physical thing. We were just sticking bodies back. Just basically, it was like a bizarro version of Redknapp's attacking philosophy of just fucking run around a bit. Mourinho seemed to be just sit around in the box and fucking, attack the ball a bit. It seems to be much more structured, what it is that we're doing under Conte. The team seems to be much more of a unit. Everything's moving in tandem. People are working for each other. There's players in space most of the time. It was a really good performance today. It was a really, really good performance. And like I say, that's what we want to see. We want to see that the baseline Tottenham improve, because we know we've seen it. We won at the fucking Etihad last year. We went away to Anfield last year and should have won that game. We can be brilliant on our day. We know that. Where we've always had to get better is in these ugly games. Win these ugly, horrible games. We did it against Wolves. This wasn't an ugly game. We got it over the line. It got ugly, and then it should have been toward the end. But we dominated this in what was supposed to be a tricky game. Hugo Lloris, not an awful. I think people were saying I let him off the hook a bit after West Ham. Maybe I did. I felt like I highlighted the fact that he was sort of playing silly buggers around the box a bit. A lot of kind of short passing about when you got Antonio hovering about. Maybe he could have done better. Apparently the throw in, even though it was a foul throw. And yeah, I think we can. Funnily enough, Adam Powley today tweeted about the fact that it's so, this isn't verbatim, but it's just so karmic. It's so obviously Tottenham that just literally the match after we should have been given a foul throw, we are whistled for a foul throw in this game. After everybody says, "Oh, foul throws aren't a thing anymore." But yeah, apparently Lloris could have done better for that. Gave the ball away. But that's last game, it doesn't matter. Sorry to anybody that was offended by me not going harder on Lloris. But I thought he was fine today. Thought he was good again. Made a really good save, I thought, from after Mitrovic had scored. He had a sort of similar opportunity. Hit one, took a nasty deflection, and Lloris, he made a decent save. I'll be honest, the sort of save I'd expect a keeper of his calibre to make, but we do see keepers get caught out by those kind of high, looping, dipping type chances. Good game for Lloris. Lenglet, wow. I touched on it at the start. He wasn't really challenged, was he, defensively? We didn't see his defensive credentials really fully on show. I saw a couple of people say that he looked pretty press resistant. To be honest, not really in my wheelhouse to sort of pick that one apart too much. It just seemed to me that he was just very, very calm, very composed on the football. The type of player that it was the kind of the blue sky version of Lenglet that we'd heard about, right? Because we'd had all the horror stories of his time at Barcelona, all the stuff that he didn't do well. But it seemed to be that in this game we were getting the good side of Lenglet. Where was it? He was at Sevilla, wasn't it, that he was at before? And the picture we'd had painted of the Sevilla Lenglet was that this was a ball-playing centre-back. This was a kind of rangy, good footballer, somebody that was great with the ball at his feet, can build attack from deep, from that position. And that's really what we got today. It was really nice, and he was just so calm, and it just added such assurance to our defence. And I don't completely want to mug off Ben Davies, because we haven't seen Lenglet in the trenches yet, right? We haven't seen him in an ugly game. We've seen Davis in those. We've seen Davis away at Anfield where he was brilliant. We've all seen the kind of block. I think it was on Luis Diaz, or was it against? No, it was against Salah, wasn't it? It was against Salah. So Ben Davies is a dogged player. But maybe he's better for those type of games. Maybe Lenglet in these sort of games where we want to dominate possession, we want to dominate our opposition, and we are expected to do so. Maybe you need that kind of composure that somebody like Lenglet brings to the team. But what a debut! Brilliant. What an addition! And let's just hope one of the nightmare scenarios that's been spelled out. Let's just hope that he doesn't become a player that actually is really, really good for us, and we're kicking ourselves for not having that option to buy. But that's a long way off. We don't need to worry about that for now. Really good performance. And I thought having him there, doing what he was doing, it helped our midfield so much. It helped our It's not just about him, it's about Romero being back as well. But that midfield too, it's unfair to really judge him, because I was digging him out after. I mean, it was Basuma, to be fair, Basuma and Hojbjerg. I wasn't really digging him out. I was just saying it just felt like we weren't really using, or our midfield was almost non-existent. But today, when you've got a more kind of steady, solid defensive block behind that midfield, it eases that pressure on those two, right? It eases the pressure on the more advanced players to be able to actually influence the attacking third of the pitch as well. To not just have to be completely concerned with dropping back and covering for what's going on behind them because they're concerned, or not even because they're concerned, because they're seeing that we're not managing to keep the ball, or we're getting pressed too much and they need to get back and lend a hand. Having Lenglet and Romero there, it really helped ease the burden for them. And then we saw again, I'll get onto him, but we saw Hojbjerg start to do his thing again. Eric Dyer, very big of Gareth Southgate. He's been talking about this week that he might consider recalling him for the England team. He's England's best centre-back at this point. He just is. He is. Antonio Conte has spoken this week about just talking about what an important player. I think he called him one of the Premier League's most important defenders. If that's like a lost in translation thing, if he's essentially saying he's one of the best players, defensive players in the league, I don't think Conte's the type of guy to throw out kind of platitudes like that unless he means it. I don't think he'd say anything at all. I think he'd just say he's having a good season. I think Eric Dyer's been fantastic. He had a bit of a dud game against Forest. I think Forest, I was not particularly impressed with him. But again today, strong in the air, marshalled the defence really well, kept everything organised, was always a presence. He's and this is something that Conte's brought to the team. His fitness has come on so much. He's not the paciest player, but still, his engine is pretty brilliant. He keeps... Oh, Dotty again, trying to get out. Go on, Dot. More cat content for the cat lovers there. Posted a picture of Dot, actually, on the... just look in the media of the Roost account. You can see her there. She's a chonky gal. But I love her. It's an interesting story there, but for another day about Dot. About how we came to find her, and it involves Tom Hayward, who often speaks on this podcast. But anyway, back to Eric Dyer. From cats to dogs, as you remember that whole cat-dog thing? Is this when I get told that Dyer is actually a cat defender? Dyer's not a cat, is he? Dyer's a dog. He's got to be a dog, surely. Tell me, at me, is he a cat or a dog? Either way, he was brilliant against Day, I thought. I think one of the main things, Dyer's always had the tools, if you like, but he's always been a bit... Actually, this is unfair. I was going to say he's always been a bit all the gear, no idea, but I don't think that's fair. I think Dyer had a really difficult patch where he couldn't really decide where he wanted to play. Managers couldn't really decide where they wanted to play him. And coupled with that, he had a chronic illness. And if you've ever lived with a chronic illness, and I'm not just trying to make this some kind of like check your privilege thing, I'm just saying, if you've not ever lived with a chronic illness, it's really hard to fully grasp the impact that can have on your life, on your day-to-day, on your overall well-being, your physical and mental well-being. It's awful. It really is. It's really hard to appreciate. And he's spoken about that. He has spoken about that, the impact it had on him. And maybe we are getting back to seeing the best of Eric Dyer, because there was for a while under Pochettino, he was looking like one of the most exciting young defensive kind of prospects in the country. I think he's going back to being that. I mean, he's not that young anymore, but he's still... I mean, for a defender, he's relatively young. How old is he? I'm going to say 27. I think he's 27. Let's have a look. Eric Dyer. 28. Right, he's 28 years old. That's all right still for a defender, But yeah, he's a good player. Good player. Impressive performance again today. I think Romero likes playing alongside him, which is important. I'd still say Romero's our best defender. And it's always good to have a settled kind of centre-back pairing, isn't it? I know we play with a three, but they are kind of a pairing in a way. They're sort of a partnership. And I think we've always seen that kind of left centre-back, that what it is that Davis does. He's almost a bit of an auxiliary left-back. The kind of the way we kind of move about a bit when we're in possession and everything like that. But whatever. Good performance from Eric Dyer. Christian Romero, fantastic performance again. It was Windy that said it on the extra inch that a lot of the kind of the should we say the poor performance against Forest and against West Ham, a lot of it comes from Romero, not having him, at least his absence. I've sort of tried to talk about it a bit today with the kind of, allowing the sort of midfield to have a sense of being able to go forwards a bit more, not have to get back and dig in as much with the defence, knowing that they've got a player like Romero there. But I think Romero's aggression, even on the ball, the way he pushes forward, and off the ball as well, the way he does move forward, because he's got the fitness and he's got the speed ultimately to be able to get forwards and get back to play a higher line without us getting caught. One criticism of him, he didn't do very well for Mitrovic's goal at all. He switched off. And that's something that we've spoken about with Romero before. I say I'm talking about the podcast in general when I've done shows with other people. I'm not going full Smeagol here. Oh, relevant, Lord of the Rings. I'll talk about Lord of the Rings at the end. But I've spoken with other people on this podcast before about Romero and the fact he is still a very young defender. Young defenders make mistakes and they get that stuff out their system at this age. That's when they kind of, they make their bones, if you like. And he does make mistakes. Remember when he first started playing for us, he was kind of getting beaten in the air a few times. And I think for the most part, he sort of ironed those kind of kinks out of his game. This, he could have done better. I think he just switched off against Mitrovic. I don't think he gave a player like Mitrovic the respect he deserved. Mitrovic has started this season firing. That goal, his goal against us, was Harry Kane-esque. It was almost like Kane's against Rangers in pre-season. It was brilliant. He looks fitter. He looks like he's lost a bit of bulk. Again, I don't think it's fat. I think he was a very, very muscular guy, and he's still a big lad. He's still doing it for the big boys, but he's definitely trimmed down a bit this season. He looks more focused. And he shouldn't have been given that space. He shouldn't have been given that opportunity. When he sort of sold Romero a bit, it was a pretty lazy-ish kind of attempted tackle in the first place. And then when Mitro had gone past him, he kind of gave up on it. You just, you got to respect the opponent more, right? That's kind of Romero's thing. He's a bull, right? Bull of the Pampas. But he's got to bear in mind that, so are players like Mitrovic. Other people want to win as well. It's great. You get stuck in, you shout at people, all that sort of stuff. But everybody else wants to win too. And I think it's just something that, I'm completely creating a narrative here, but I think you can run away with yourself a bit when you're young and you're getting smoke blown up your arse and you feel invincible. But I back a player like Romero to learn from that. I'm so happy we've got him. I don't want to focus on this being negative. We've just signed him permanently now. 5 years with, I think, one of the most exciting young defenders in world football. I do worry about the thought of somebody like Real Madrid coming in for him, but that's a worry for another day. At the moment, we've got him. And it's the start of a new era, isn't it, really, for Tottenham already? We're seeing it. If you think about it, when we signed Vertonghen way back when, he was the start. He was one of the first pieces in the puzzle of what ultimately, the culmination of it was Pochettino's, let's say, 16, 17, 17, 18 kind of Tottenham team. Vertonghen was one of the main pieces of that. At first, though, he was kind of added to a sort of mishmash squad that wasn't quite there. He was clearly always a good player, but he didn't always get it right. He made the odd mistake from time to time, and maybe that's what Romero is. The fact of the matter is, though, that Romero is getting added to a much better team than Vertonghen was back then. So, sky's the limit. It's fantastic to have him, and I cannot believe... Like I've mentioned it before, I cannot believe that he was at Juventus. I didn't know this as well. I had no idea. I didn't realise it was some weird sort of deal we've pulled off here where he was actually on loan at Atalanta, and Atalanta bought him from Juventus before they loaned him to us, before we bought him. But yeah, another one that Another one that Juventus passed up on. Fuck knows why. They brought in De Ligt and they've lost De Ligt now, haven't they? I think he was on to Bayern Munich. De Ligt was never the same after that Champions League game. We broke him. Sorry, we did. We broke De Ligt. But we didn't break Romero yet. Anyway, great performance. Ryan Sessegnon. Now, you see, the funny thing is, right, I've got a note in my... Because I've been kind of standing for Ryan Sessegnon from past seasons, and into this. I'm happier that he kind of got the place ahead of Reguilon. But I actually made a note on my phone. Is Sessegnon actually shit? ? And I was talking to Phil about this on WhatsApp during the game. And there was just something suddenly in my head today. I was watching him and I was just like, he's starting to piss me off a bit. You know, like, I really like the lad and I think there's a lot there. But also, you know, this isn't... when you got a player like Perisic on the books, you can only sort of facilitate for so long a player that seems as timid as he does. And it was really starting to irritate me. But then, as the game went on, he grew into it. He did grow into it. And, you know, I think, all right, he has been out for a couple of games. And I do think we're getting to the point, right? I don't want to get too, like, toxic about it. I'm not going to fucking start talking about people needing to man up and all that sort of stuff. But I do think we're getting to a point with Sessegnon where you can see, right? You can see he's got so much ability. He just needs to now he needs to get out of his own head. He needs to, or else, you know, I don't think he's going to have much more of a Tottenham career. I don't think somebody like Conte is going to facilitate that forever, is all I mean. We've got Udogie coming next year. You'd imagine there's going to be a bedding in period. If you see what's happening with Spence at the moment, I don't think Sessegnon needs to immediately worry about somebody else coming in and taking his place immediately, especially a young player. Even though he does sound like he's a really special talent, it sounds like we've done another Romero here. We've got another really exciting young player. But on to Sessegnon, he ended the game really well. He was busy. He was a menace. He was actually playing in some teasing kind of good balls towards the end. And we saw, obviously, I mean, it got chalked off, but he played that ball through to Richarlison for 3-1, since chalked off. That was good, you know. That was kind of a bit of a product of his endeavour. There was that opportunity at Forest, which ended up with Richarlison passing it through to Kane, but Kane was fuming, absolutely livid with Sessegnon not kind of releasing the ball sooner or releasing it properly. And he just needs to, because I don't doubt for a second that Sessegnon has the ability to do that. We can see it every now and again when he kind of gets down the wing, he can float a lovely cross into the box. He's got that. He's got the ability to do that. He is the one that needs to remember that. He needs to kind of just stop being in his own head so much and just get into it, you know. And one thing I will say that I don't think he does as much now, which I think is a promising sign, is you saw in the first couple of games when he'd make little mistakes, he was always kind of stamping his feet and like shouting at himself and kind of throwing his hands in the air. It's easy for me to say, I get this, you know, I get it, you know, man sat podcasting, telling professional footballer how to feel. I get this, but you know what I mean. Like we can critique the gods, right? we can watch on at what they're doing, and if you watch enough football, even if you did play it as a kid, you get it. You know, we all exist in society. We all have our own kind of equivalent of this in our jobs. There are just moments when we know you need to snap into action. You need to get out of your own head and get into it. These are universal truths for anybody, for any walk of life. So we don't just need to always have this kind of trite conversation that people aren't allowed to try and give advice to a Premier League footballer. But it is still a bit funny. I do get it. Don't get me wrong. But still, just Cess lad, just don't be in your own head so much, right? If you are listening, and I'm sure you are, you're good. We believe in you. Like, there's a player there. You can see there's a player there. Just kind of remember that. It's the most important thing that you remember that. Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. I mean, you know, I didn't think there'd ever be a time I was saying this, but You know what? I'm going to say it. I think he's been our best player so far this season. I really do. I really, really do. I think he's gone up a level. I think he's playing almost at a level that I personally didn't think he was capable of. And again, that's a product of not working with somebody, not seeing him on the training pitch day in, day out, and also perhaps just forgetting that he's a young player still himself, respectively. Youngish anyway. He's not a veteran. He's going to be improving at all times. And it's probably silly to think that a player like Hojbjerg isn't going to improve under the tutelage of Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte improves players. Top coaches improve players. And the base there for Hojbjerg was pretty solid. I've always said that of Hojbjerg. I've always said he's got a solid base. He's always going to be a 6 out of 10 player. And my critique of Hojbjerg has always been that he's a good player to have for the squad, but if we want to progress, we need to get a better starting option than him. But I don't think that's the case right now. He scored again today. He's probably got no business scoring as much as he is at the moment. Maybe he does. I don't know. I don't put him down as a goal-scoring player. But the way in which he's kind of controlling the ball in midfield, his passing has been so much better. His reading of what the opposition are doing, his breaking of their play, especially against a team like Fulham today, who did come at us. They played, or at least tried to play, pretty expansively, but we just had their number. And I do admire them for that, Fulham, in a way. It's probably a bit silly, but it's done them quite well so far. I mean, results would probably say otherwise, though, wouldn't they? That's the thing. But they've come and they've tried to play, and you can't play against teams like Spurs. You can't. You have to devote. Part of the thing is, right, part of the thing that we are probably not giving Spurs enough credit for, and I include myself in that, when we're talking about games like Wolves, we're talking about games like the Forest game, is that those teams have pretty much abandoned whatever it is that they want to do. Not whatever, but a lot of what it is that they want to do. They've abandoned their own style. They've abandoned their kind of game plan. Their game plan has become, how do we stop Tottenham? It isn't, let's see our game plan versus theirs, battle of wits, battle of players, let's see who comes out on top. It's, let's look at what Tottenham do and try our best to stop them. And I get that. That's a legitimate tactic to a degree. I think that's something, and it is a pecking order thing. We do that to Liverpool. We did that to Liverpool at Anfield. Klopp fucking hated it. Their fans hated it. But ultimately, we got the measure of them. We knew how to stop Liverpool, and we knew how to exploit their system. I wouldn't have been complaining if we won at Anfield. We nearly did. We should have done, probably. We didn't, so it doesn't matter. But other teams have been doing that to us. Other teams have been looking at how can we exploit, how can we turn Tottenham's system against itself. Fulham didn't do that so much today, and they paid the price for it. The final score's 2-1. We got 3 points on the board, but it could have just as easily been. Today, like I said at the top, today could have been 4-0. It could have been. And I think it maybe should have been. And maybe this is more something that will catch up with us in the end. Maybe we are being a bit profligate. Is it profligate? I think it's profligate. See, I always do this. I saw a funny tweet the other day where it was I think they said something like, yeah, profligate, that is the word. But the tweet was something like, you always know when somebody who isn't that intelligent reads a lot of books because they use a lot of big words that they don't really know the meaning of. And I was like, yeah, I feel pretty seen by that. But yeah, maybe we don't take our chances as well as we could. Maybe that's something we need to work on. But Hojbjerg took his today. Well worked goal. Brilliant performance from him. I thought he was our man of the match. I did think he was our man of the match today, to be honest. Bentancur alongside him was a breath of fresh air again. Don't want to dig out Basuma too much. Conte spoke about this midweek. I'm not going to go into Conte's press conference. I get that it splits opinion when you talk about this. People will say, oh, you're just getting triggered by Conte. Yeah, and it's much like I was saying last time around. I get the type of manager that Conte is, but also just shut up sometimes, mate. But whatever, whatever. I just did. My main thing is I didn't like the way he spoke about Spence. Didn't like the way he spoke about Spence, and continues to do so. Yeah, I get it. Some people say, oh, you want to keep a young player hungry. I don't think singling him out all the time is particularly fair. Fuck knows, who knows? But Bentancur today, Great performance. That's the guy that we know has had more time with Conte, knows the system more, knows his partner in Hojbjerg a lot more. One thing I am sort of noticing about Bentancur this season, I think he's getting fitter. I think all our players are getting fitter. You know, we keep talking about this. We know what the demands Conte places upon his players, and Bentancur is one of those players that I think we're really starting to notice a difference in that. I think one of the other things that has been either hammered out of him or he's just kind of started to kind of become aware of is the fact that you don't have definitely from when we first signed him to now, he definitely knows you don't get as much time on the ball in the Premier League as you do in the Serie A. I'm not digging out the Serie A. I love the Serie A. I don't buy into all the misconceptions, but the football is different. It's not as high intensity. Although, you know, the Serie A is actually pretty high intensity. It is. So I'm sort of selling myself to the shops here. But I do think he plays with more intensity now. I don't think he sort of dallies as much in possession. It was another good performance today. Playing, sort of spraying the ball about pretty nicely. His understanding with Hojbjerg was great, and like I say, I think with those three behind him, they felt pretty liberated. Emerson Royale, he's an interesting one, isn't he, man? He is interesting. He had a good game. He did have a good game. He gets stuck in. He fights pretty hard for the team. I still have my reservations about how good he is going forwards. I think that's the main thing. I think since we've seen Perisic on the other side, it's kind of shown me what's possible if you have players of a top quality, right? Emerson is really good. I do think he is really good as well. But he's not Reece James, is he? And I know a few players it's not a fair comparison, but I think it is fair in so much as, look at the teams kind of above us, right? Trent, Reece James, Kyle Walker. Emerson ain't that, is he? You think about kind of the attacking threat that those three bring to their respective sides. We don't get that from Emerson. And in a system like this, you need it. So I'm still always going to have my concerns about him. But he had a good game. He did have a good game. He's defensively, he's a brilliant defender. He's a really good defender. He's kind of weirdly good in the air because he's not. I don't think he's the tallest player. I don't feel like he is. He doesn't look that tall, but maybe he is. Maybe sort of deceptively. So he's got a good engine on him. He's very fit. I think he's a decent footballer. I think he technically speaking, he can sort of trap the ball well. He's got a decent enough pass on him. I just think it more lies in his kind of attacking vision and the speed with which he attacks. I don't mean like physically. I don't think he's like slow on the ball. He's a pretty quick footballer, but I don't think he always reads kind of, because most of the attacking talent we have in our team is exceptional, right? And I'm just not sure he's on the same page as those players. Perisic is, and that's when you got Perisic on the pitch, it brings out really, really kind of, it brings into full focus what it is that our team's lacking sometimes, or has lacked. And that's kind of, I wasn't trying to dig out Sessegnon earlier, but I think maybe that's what's influencing my kind of thoughts on Sessegnon a little bit. But it's not fair, right? Perisic is a veteran. He's been there, done that. When he was first playing under Conte wasn't happy with him and sent him away for a season. So he's had his time to learn and to get better. What we're seeing now is a player at the end of his journey. In Emerson and Sessegnon, we're seeing two players, relatively early on into theirs. So let's cut them a bit of slack. I think the thing is, this all comes down to with how soon do Tottenham want to win something? How soon do Tottenham need to capitalise on having Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, Hugo Lloris, Antonio Conte as our manager, and our players like Emerson holding us back from getting something over the line in the immediate future? If I was going to be harsh, I would say yes. I do think we need someone better if we want to go and win the league, perhaps. But maybe we don't. I don't know. It's just me thinking aloud at the end of the day. Heung-min Son, it was good to have old Sonny back. He got. He's going to feel like he's cursed or something at the moment, man. And it's funnily enough, Salah had a very similar game at the start of the day where Salah did look a bit better, but he just could not get it over the line. Just couldn't do it. And that's what it was like for Son today. But he was dangerous. He was making the sort of Son type runs. The Son runs. The Son runs. The Son runs that he's known for. He was trapping the ball well. He was managing to kind of... He was a menace to the opposition. He was linking up with Kane. There was that one opportunity, wasn't there, when Kane put him through and he ended up hitting the crossbar that you're just like, oh, it's just not happening for him. And he looked very disappointed. He looked very dejected to be taken off. But it felt like the right time to take him off. He'd had a really good game. He had a really good game. He was ultimately, to me, he was adding value to the team. He was keeping Fulham occupied. He was keeping Fulham pinned back. It was meaning that we could continue to exert our kind of control in the final third. When someone like Son is firing, that's what we can do. We can be that problem for the opposition. We can stop them from pressing us and from kind of thinking about how they're going to get at Spurs, because what they're having to do is contain Heung-min Son. They're having to contain Richarlison. They're having to contain Harry Kane. And when you got Son firing, you got Son going at them, getting the ball in good positions, putting himself in good positions to receive the ball, it's glorious. It's glorious for the team. And it's good to see him kind of back at it, playing. Somebody made the point to me on Twitter when I was kind of digging. I did a pretty sort of just churlish tweet about Son and Salah. Did they train with the same guy over summer or whatever? And who was it? Was it Lee? I think it was Lee. Let me just have a quick look, because it was a good point. I want to say it was like Lee. Yeah, Lee Jr. At Lee71 Jr. This is his exact words, where everyone's giving all types of reasons and excuses for Son and Salah, but no one has mentioned the fact that they're 30 now. The way they play, with fast bursts of acceleration and high intensity all game, playing 3 days for years on end, takes its toll. Yeah, fair point. Absolutely fair point. Maybe it's just taken... They're both senior players now. And especially, like he says, for players that are kind of that are so reliant on being physically agile as they are. Maybe it's catching up with him a little bit. Slower start to the season, but we forgive Kane for his slow starts to the season. And as other people have said, the difference is now that before we've had no option but to be patient with Sonny. But now we've got Richarlison. Now we've got Kulusevski. There's options there, so the pressure is going to be on. And I was sort of saying we should probably drop Son ahead of this game and bring Richarlison in, but he actually took off Kulusevski instead. I think that was a surprise to most. I know we're talking about resting players ahead of the Champions League. To me, I think it is Conte knowing that our best chance of doing something is if Heung-min Son is fit and firing and ready to go. Son is one of our best players, and I just think he is doggedly just trying to play him into form. That's what he wants to do, and whatever, let Conte do it, and it seems to be working. Slowly he's going up through the gears. Son was great again today. Richarlison, I mean, what can I say? What can I say, man? He's looking like a snip at 60 mil at the moment. I didn't think I thought he actually started the game. I thought it was guff at the start of the game. I did, and I was readying my takes after 15, 20 minutes about him maybe being an impact player and blah, blah, blah. Just took him a bit of time. I don't believe we've played him up on the right. Maybe we have. Yeah, I think we have actually. We've taken him off of Kulusevski before, haven't we? Yeah. But we did it in the last game. But he was great today. The understanding that he was starting to forge with Son and Kane is exactly what you want to see. It's like, we've got Richarlison and Kulusevski, two players of such a calibre that they've come in and actually added more to the Son and Kane partnership. That's the level that both of them are at, right? Because we've seen other players coming along and not really do it. Llorente, I would probably say, is one of the players that's come closest to doing it. A seasoned pro, a World Cup winner, a Champions League pretty much ever present for the majority of his career, came along and looked all right with Son and Kane. But Son and Kane have always been kind of like those two lads that sit at the back of the bus who aren't openly hostile. They just kind of know they're kind of cooler, better than everyone else, right? And it's hard to kind of break into that. But in Richarlison and in Kulusevski, we've got two players who have done that immediately, who have added more, who are trusted. That's the important thing. You can see they are trusted by Son and Kane. Both Son and Kane know that Richarlison and Kulusevski are of a quality that they can do stuff to benefit the team. They can unlock the opposition. They can create chances for Son and Kane for themselves. And Richarlison did just that. It's pretty annoying that his goal got chalked off. I'll talk about it now. Charlie Eccleshare was talking about it on the View from the Lane podcast, the Athletics podcast, and I feel this way. I haven't really wanted to bang on about it because I'm not worried about it sounding Yadar. I've just sort of thought it's here, so what's the point of complaining about it? But I think we've seen enough of VAR now to know that. Personally, I think the sample size is big enough to say it takes away from football more than it gives to it. Of course, it gives some stuff to it. We owe some great nights to it. We owe that Champions League quarter-final against Manchester City to VAR. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that we owe to VAR as well that I can't think of right now. But it takes away, especially for the match-going fan, especially when you're there, it's shit. The worst part about it, we saw this in the Everton-Liverpool game earlier. The worst part for me is the video-assisted offsides. Bin them immediately. I'm sorry. It's worked for 100. Yeah, or not every lino is going to get everyone spot on. I don't really care. Taking away from the kind of flow of this, the weird kind of technicalities that they count as offsides now, a toe being ahead of somebody's elbow or whatever bullshit, the way they draw the lines, it's nonsense, man. If a linesman at the side of the pitch cannot see clearly, right, an issue, 9 times out of 10 there isn't an advantage then, you know? So this kind of idea that it's unfair, actually what it's doing now is making football fair. It's not. It's just depriving goals. It's taking away from the match-going experience. I'll be honest, when I watch football, I don't, unless I've had a few drinks, I'm odd, I don't really lose myself to it anymore. I always have that thing where I feel guarded celebrating goals. I just feel guarded celebrating any type of goal. Because I'm always thinking, maybe we're going to see something or other. There's going to be some little issue somewhere, or there's going to be a toe offside, and I just think VAR takes away from that. I think Richarlison, it was a goal. All right, Kane's, I get it. Kane's was offside, but the lino flagged that straight away. Fine, he saw that was offside. Richarlison's fucking offside, man. Come on, this is ridiculous. We saw it was similar again. We saw that with Everton's against Liverpool earlier on, if you saw it. Yeah, right, you've got this stupid, ridiculous, minute, sterile call that it can be offside. But it isn't offside. It's not clear and obvious. And that's what we were told all along that it was going to be. And it's just gotten so warped now. And the thing is, I don't even buy that they're all consistent. And it does make me feel a bit tinfoil. You know, we saw that. Remember our goal? I can't remember. There was one a couple of weeks last season. Kane had one ruled out for offside, and then Manchester United that same afternoon in the evening kickoff had a pretty much picture perfect, exact kind of thing with Cavani that got called onside. And you can look at the two pictures, and they don't look different at all. But whatever. I mean, that's me going a bit kind of, swivel-eyed and stuff. To bring it back to a more kind of place of reality and not on conspiracy, I just think VAR takes too much away from the game. Football it's about passion. It's about kind of excitement. It's about living in the moment. It's about being able to lose yourself to that. And yeah, there's going to be wrong decisions at times, but that we've always learned to deal with that. There always has been. And I honestly feel even some of the shittest decisions we've had go against us, I feel that doesn't take away from my enjoyment of football as much as seeing kind of goals chalked off in this robotic fashion does. Bin it. Get rid of it. I don't know if they ever will. I don't know if it's, this is sort of veering back into conspiracy, but people talk about the money that's involved in football nowadays, that sort of thing. That's the reason why they're never going to take away VAR. Please just get rid of it. Or just look at the implementation at least. These fucking offsides are awful. They're terrible. If you need VAR because somebody's nutted a player, headbutted, I should say now. I know that there's different meaning to that sometimes nowadays. I beg your pardon. For players headbutted another player off the ball behind the referee's back or whatever, yeah, great. Call the ref to the screen. Show him that. He can send that player off. Fine. No objection to that. That's a smart use of something like VAR, right? Taking 4 or 5 minutes against West Ham the other day to see if we've actually got a penalty or not for a handball. Fuck off, man. The referee said it's a handball penalty. Just give it us. That's the way it kind of goes. We'll have some of those go against us at some point as well. It all evens itself out. For anybody that says it doesn't, it does. It always did, and it always will. Get rid of VAR. It's shit. Harry Kane. Good goal. Good man. He's on his way to hashtag HK35, as Ricky said. Wasn't a vintage Harry Kane performance, but, if Harry Kane's up top, getting goals, that's all you want from him, really, isn't it? That's the main thing, ultimately, that you want from Harry Kane. That the opposition are getting so distracted now with Richarlison, Son, Kulusevski, whoever. They're almost forgetting about Harry Kane. Everyone's worried about Erling Haaland. And yeah, probably rightfully so. But let them, let them be. Harry Kane is going to score a lot of goals for Tottenham. He always will do for as long as he's playing for us. He started off this season in fine form and he's banging them in. Let's see when he's properly up and firing, right? We know Kane starts slow. We know he always starts slow. Kane starting slow now is Kane scoring goals as well. That's got to be a worry for anybody. That's got to be a worry for anybody. And Kane sat at the top of this attacking unit. Sky's the limit for Tottenham. It's another 3 points at the end of the day. It's another 3 points. It's a game that everybody said was going to be tricky. It's a game that I thought was going to be tricky, but we've come away from it. We are now sitting. If Arsenal lose to Manchester United tomorrow, they're 1 point ahead of us. That's for all their brilliant start to the season. It has been, it has been good. Let's not sort of piss on that too much. But we're second. We're joint second in the table now. City are playing. I think they're playing Villa right now as I record this. If they draw that, we're on level points with City. Exactly the same kind of game. I mean, they're probably going to win, aren't they? But 4 wins, 2 draws, 0 losses, 12 goals. Goal difference of 7. It's looking pretty rosy for Tottenham. So let's just keep the faith. I've been getting quite a few DMs from people at the moment, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for letting me know that you are enjoying the show. I did start doing these solo pods this year, and I was sort of thinking, oh, God, how is this going to go? I don't know. I sort of got the feeling that I just quite fancy doing this, to react to games, get the sort of stuff that's in my head out there, and then still continue to sort of, find good guests, have good conversations with people on the Monday. I don't want to make it all about me. I'm not fucking going to become a YouTuber or something like. Although let's never say never, shall we? But thank you. I'm glad that everybody who is enjoying this is is doing so. Please, if you are enjoying it, I know I keep saying this, but it really does help. It helps to bring in new listeners. If you can, on Spotify through the client, through the sort of, the whatever it is, the app, just rate it. Do the same on Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating, leave a review, share the podcast if that's retweeting it or just letting other some people are letting me know. Oh, I sent this to my dad. Lad called Ollie. He's just telling me, I sent it to my dad, sent it to my brother. Everyone loves it. Nice one. Cheers, mate. Thank you, Ollie. It doesn't all have to be. It's not all just about numbers and all that sort of stuff. It's just a good way of talking to people. I hope you enjoyed the pod the other day when I was getting other people sending voice notes. I might do more of that. If you fancy sending in voice notes and stuff, let me think of a way. Maybe I'll try and find one of the old emails or something like that. Can get people to send in sort of some voice notes. I'll leave a prompt maybe at the end of episodes about stuff that we can potentially talk about. Maybe I'll do one each month or something like that. Nice way to get everybody involved in that sort of a way, make it a bit more of a two-way street. But thank you for listening. Thanks for leaving your reviews, for giving me all the positive affirmations that my ego requires. Really do appreciate it. Like I say, if you can, it's hard times out there, but if you can support the show, that would be much appreciated as well. There's a link in the bio on Twitter, one of those like buy me a coffee websites. Nothing's getting paywalled. All the content you're getting right now, you're going to get it. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not firing fucking shots at anybody that does do paywalls. I'm just saying I'm not doing it. I'm going to keep giving you this content. If you like it, and you can do so, you can just support the show a little bit, and that means I can put money towards, like I say, towards the software that I use to record the show. I can make it a professional edition. It means I can do more ambitious stuff. It means the sound quality will be better. I can get better microphones so when I'm going out and about and doing stuff, I have spent money already on microphones, blah, 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 whatever. It's my hobby, but if you do enjoy it, that's great. If you can support, fantastic. If you can't, I appreciate it. Anyway, don't worry. Times are hard. I hope everybody is good. Come on, you Spurs.